John Ramirez is a retired GS-15 rank CIA officer who served within the agency from 1984 to 2009, serving within the Directorate of Science and Technology, the Directorate of Intelligence, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
Everyone in the government seems to be tripping over themselves trying to join the conversation, so to speak. Everyone wants to say, yeah, we've also collected, data, and here's our data. But I really don't know. It feels like something is happening, but I don't know what that something is. And the fact that the CIA allowed me to say what I did, I was really surprised. So, and I got more to say. There's a few slides I'm going to expand on for a future presentation. I'm trying my darnest to try to get redacted, and I haven't succeeded. So there's a few slides there about the McMinnville UFO and the reality of, I would say, hybridization that I thought would get redacted, but it didn't. And that's the word that Louis Elizondo can't say, that everyone in the Pentagon is expecting him to say someday, is that we're all hybrids.
When you say that Lou can't say that, is that actually
It's not. It's a schedule.
Right. Okay.
It's a schedule. I think the biggest takeaway for folks to understand is that things are happening on a. It's not a disclosure. It's a scheduled dissemination, and so certain things have to be set up before other things can be revealed. I think the kicker will be this James Webb Space Telescope.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's going to look at something, and it's going to be so phenomenal that the government will have no choice but to say, "Oh, look at that! We need to go look at it," even though they know what it is.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that it could be the case that they're setting up this telescope with the prior knowledge that they're going to reveal something.
They need to look at someplace, yeah,
in
space, and then there will be some kind of reveal there. In Blue Book, it was more like, we know what's going on, but we don't want anyone else to know what's going on. And please come up with some reasons why they shouldn't think what they saw is what they saw. That was more a cover-up. And I think NASIC is more part of this controlled dissemination that will eventually come out.
Yeah.
I don't think they can bury it anymore because it's already out.
No, I think any sort of conversations around swamp gas and temperature inversion would not be taken very lightly at this point.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic about the direction of the modern UAP or UFO discussion within mainstream context? So in terms of governmental and academic and media engagement, does it make you optimistic about where we might go?
I think, see, the government's more than willing to say that the craft are real. The government doesn't want to say is who's driving the craft. The presence of orbs really threw everything at a higher pitch because they couldn't explain the orbs. And they said, okay, these aren't the saucers. These aren't your grandfather's saucers. These orbs are different. And that's what really got everyone excited, is the presence of these orbs that were detected. And so that's where most of the focus is on now.
I think Lou Elizondo has postulated that they could be some sort of, drone, hyper advanced drone technology of some form, that they're coming down and doing surveillance. I have no idea what it was that I saw. So I'm full of questions when it comes to orbs. And I know you have your own experience with that. Maybe we could get into that at some point after the presentation, because I know that you've had some experience throughout your career with actually encountering some of these orbs in
childhood. Yes.
and childhood, of course. Yeah.
And they are orange.
And yes, they are. I mean, that's the thing. They seem to come in a multitude of colors, but I've only ever witnessed these orange orbs.
Yeah, my wife has seen orange orbs here recently.
Recently.
And I've seen orange orbs and also a white orb. But yeah, Arizona is just full of, like, I tell people, if you've never seen one, come to Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, put your lawn chair out and just look up at the sky for a few minutes, and you'll see something. There's like something about Arizona
going on. Yeah.
Paperclip. Used to be called Overcast and changed the name to Paperclip. Germany surrendered early May 45. We know that. But immediately thereafter, there was the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency started to operate to collect the Nazi archives and locate Nazi scientists. And who helped them? Well, it was the Nazi party officials and SS officers. In fact, Waffen SS troops from the 15th, 19th, and 20th Waffen SS divisions from the Baltic states switched uniforms, wore American uniforms, and guarded their former masters, high officials in the Nazi party. And that is a true statement. So the first group of Nazi scientists arrived in the fall of 45, and there's the happy group photo of them at Fort Bliss in 46. So we have Paperclip running. We have JIOA running, and JIOA collecting all of this data about what's in the Nazi archives. Well, somewhere in there, Truman was briefed about the Nazi obsession with bloodlines and hybridization. They were really interested about this. So I had to speculate that the German scientists revealed the existence of a human hybrid breakaway civilization. Did they reveal that they trying to research reproducing advanced technology, hybrid advanced technology? And did they reveal their research into a superior civilization of ancient origin that's still on Earth? And off to the right side, you see the two vehicles there well, the only industrial country with an industrial base that's viable after World War II is the United States. And supposing that there were some plans or blueprints or whatever you want to call them of these two top vehicles, that's up to speculation. I don't know. But the bottom one definitely was a vehicle. It was taken to RIPAT T2 intelligence. And so the Horton 229 is an actual craft. And doesn't it look like some of our stealth craft today? So what was that organization running around the world trying to find evidence of the hybrid civilizations? It was the Deutsches Annenerbe. They investigate the supposed hidden occult origins of the German race. Occult does not mean demonic, it just means hidden. So they wanted to link the German ancestry of the Aryan race to the inhabitants of Atlantis. And they believe that when Atlantis was destroyed, that the survivors of Atlantis spread across the earth. To the New World, for example, they went everywhere looking for the survivors of Atlantis. They went, strangely enough, to the Antarctica, looking for evidence, artifacts that they existed. Did they find them? I don't know. But they supported these expeditions. They were into these occult practices, psychic phenomenon, and unfortunately tragically conducted these human genetic experiments in the concentration camps of trying to experiment with DNA. And here's a picture of them with Tibetan dignitaries in Lhasa in 38. So how are you going to hide all of this from becoming public? Well, one way is to create an intelligence agency. And at that time, in January of 46, now mind you, May of 45, we have Nazi SS officers assisting the US government with finding information that's in the Nazi archives. Some of that information was regard to their research into Atlantean civilizations, into breakaway civilizations, advanced human hybrids. And how do you hide that? Well, you need an intelligence organization called the Central Intelligence Group, which was founded in January of 46, the beginning of the year in 46. And its purpose was to hide the association of the US government and these former Nazi officers. And they classified the exploitation of advanced technology gleaned from the Nazi archives. And this creation of this National Intelligence Authority and this Central Intelligence Group was the birth of the modern national security state. Whereas Paperclip brought over 1,600 Nazis, 1,000 of those Nazis actually worked for CIG and later CIA. They were spies for the CIA. And we sent them back into Europe, to spy against the Russians. They were more easily able to assimilate into East European countries. And of course, the famous one was General Reinhard Gehlen. He was sent back to help establish the West German Intelligence Service, the BND. Now let's go up to Roswell. Now with all that history behind, now you know that, okay, the CIA, the CIG, was working with Nazis, and that the part of that work was recovering artifacts, recovering technology that the Nazis were working on, and now we have Roswell. Not to say that Roswell was German technology, not to say that, but let's look at it. So there was an eyewitness account, Mr. and Mrs. Wilmot. What they described on July the 2nd looked very much like what we would call UAP. It's an object that glowed from the inside, not as if it was lit from the outside, traveling very fast and very high with no sound. Now that happened on July the 2nd. On July the 8th, comes a newspaper article. The 2nd and 8th, it was a long period of time. Now, I don't believe that the recovery of these objects occurred after July the 8th. I believe the recovery of the objects happened prior to July the 8th. And I cannot prove that because I have not gone into the CIG FOIA. I don't know if there is a CIG FOIA. Maybe it's held by the CIA. Maybe that was the information that Chase Brandon found in the historical intelligence collection. But going from there, there was some foreknowledge, I believe, that there was such craft that the Nazis were interested in. And who flew the craft? I don't know. They weren't human, I don't believe. I have not seen the files that Chase Brandon saw. But could have been the Atlantean craft that was flown with hybrids on board. I don't know. That's just pure speculation on my part. I'm just trying to connect dots, and some dots sort of like our outliers and can't be connected. But this is the way I'm trying to sort it in my own mind. You absolutely do not have to believe anything I say. You can just toss it away. So finally, we come to later on in July. A law created the CIA and what was called the National Military Establishment. The Department of Defense wasn't named until August the 10th, 49. Right after Roswell through August of 49, it was the National Military Establishment that was created. And what's of interest was the fiscal year in the modern Roswell era between July 1st, 47 and July 30, 48. Fiscal year is that year where the government gets funded. Right now it's October 1st to September 30th that the government is supposed to be funded if Congress is able to put a bill in time for the president's signature before October 1st. I don't know when was the last time that happened, but be that as it may, let's go back to May of 48 when they had the Armed Services Procurement Act. It provided defense agencies a means of non-competitive practices. Sole source defense contracts where the Pentagon would go to one person or one contractor, one entity saying, you got the contract, we're not competing it. And it can hide the budget. This law allowed the government to hide the budget of these sole source contracts. And that greatly increased the power and influence of defense contractors. And that is the start, in May of 48, that birthed the modern military industrial complex. It did not start with Eisenhower giving that speech. He had to live with this as a reality, that these contractors had so much power in the Department of Defense. And you probably heard the existence of the rogue programs. My argument is the programs aren't necessarily rogue. I don't believe that there are rogue programs. I do believe there are unacknowledged programs, but there are laws on the books, like Title 10, Section 119, that allows these types of programs to exist, out of sight, out of mind. And there's an executive order 13526 recently, I think most recently updated by President Obama. I don't know if President Trump or President Biden had done anything with 13526, but this executive order, based on US Code 10, Section 119, allows for carve-outs and unacknowledged SAPs that do not have to be reported. However, having said that, don't even think for a moment that no one knows what's in them, because in the House Appropriations Committee, there's a subcommittee that actually can look into these unacknowledged SAPs. And though they may be unacknowledged, they're going to be called something else as a cover name for something else. And that cover name is going to have a dollar figure behind it. So they're not truly unacknowledged in that sense. And believe it or not, the subcommittee members in that particular appropriations committee are cleared at an extremely high level. They probably have more tickets or compartments than I had. I had 26 when I retired and signed off on all 26, read out, but they probably have as many as they need to do their job. Now, this is known as the infamous slide 54, because it's the 54th one in the deck. And I promise you, I know we went long, but we're almost done. This is called informed speculation. I think it's hidden history, but let's call it informed speculation. And I'll clue you in on why it's informed. So a lot of these inter-row launch mission patches, launch logos, tend to depict reptilians and occult figures having some kind of dominance over the earth. It's very unusual that they would show that. So I speculated based on other things that I've learned. Now leave it at that. That we're reptilian beings able to manipulate primate DNA to accelerate human hybrids. Did that happen? And were some of those human hybrids people that in myth and legend we call Atlanteans? In fact, aren't we all human hybrids? After all, let us make man in our image, says Genesis. Why aren't we like apes? Why aren't we like the bonobo, the gorilla, the chimpanzee? That's matter for speculation. But did they do this? And are the accelerated ones really the Atlanteans? Did they ordain this idea of kingship and priesthood through selected hybrid families? And were they able to establish aristocratic bloodlines? Bloodlines in aristocracy are so important back in ancient times. And hybrid families of power and wealth. Did they establish that? And even today, are they exercising some kind of political power, economic control off the stage, or hidden social influence? And I'm just leaving that as it is. I'm just saying that it's informed because I wrote to CIA and said, here's why I know this. And CIA came back and said, well, we look forward to your presentation when you do this on these two slides. And I have a serial number for that particular submission, so I can refer to it when I do these two slides and expand it into a future presentation. Personally, I believe this is one of the core secrets. That's my personal opinion. Let's look at some of the logos, and I'll go through them real fast. NROL 4, launch 4. launches numerals are not necessary in the order the spacecraft was launched. So I'll just say that. But this is number 4. Number 6. Number 19. Number 32, the Eye of Horus. Number 35. And by the way, her name is Angelique. She was named by some folks in NRO. They said she's Angelique. I don't know where the Angelique name came from, but that's her name. And there's Angelique on an actual payload fairing for an NRO satellite. Anubis, god of the afterlife, Egyptian god of the afterlife on NRL 38. That A stands for Atlas. AV is Atlas 5, number 23 in the launch sequence. United Launch Alliance, 45th Space Wing, and I don't remember what LR stood for. I'm sure there's people in the audience that would know that. There's Anubis, Egyptian god of the afterlife, on a NRO spacecraft that US taxpayers paid for. And on the spacecraft itself, now I should say the previous one was a mission patch, as you can tell, something you would sew on a jacket. On the spacecraft itself, we have 3-headed dragon. And if you notice that around this official little poster the NRO put out, you have reptilian skin surrounding all of this. Reptilian skin in a circle for the O. And there's our 3 dragons on the Atlas V, which, by the way, the RD 180 rocket engines is thanks to the Russians. We launch spy satellites against Russia using rocket engines supplied by the Russians. And there's a constellation. I don't know if this is Draco, but if there's any amateur astronomers out there, that might be a clue hidden in plain sight. I don't know what constellation that is at all. That's 38. 39 is the octopus. And there's our octopus on a payload fairing. 49, Latin translates to the most important fall. You heard of fallen angels, and that fallen angels might have been the Atlanteans that were separated from the other humans because they were too far advanced and their civilization was destroyed, therefore fallen. I found that to be very intriguing. And Betty here is probably Betty Sapp. When this mission went up, Betty Sapp was slated, S-A-P-P, Betty Sapp was slated to be the first woman director of the NRO. Most important fall. And here's another patch for this, or another logo. The devil you know. Vandenberg Air Force Base, the first Delta IV heavy launch, the rocket that actually launched it, from Space Launch Center number 6 at Vandenberg. Space Launch Control, maybe, number 6. The devil you know. Get your kicks on 66. And Green Door. Green Door assignments in the Air Force are black program assignments. And if you look at this patch, I don't know if it's a magician or an insect, but this patch is so intriguing because the more you look at it, you see more things into it. But I see 2 red eyes here, and I don't know, this looks like a Merlin, the magician hat. I don't know, but keep looking at it. And some people see insects. Some people see a magician with a Merlin the magician hat. This red spot here over the United States is the southwest of the United States. Okay, Southwest United States. What black program would exist in a southwestern state, like in a desert? Leave it at that. But these black programs are called
It
behind the green.
also, just real quick, it also
Yeah.
looks like it's holding a dagger, the golden overlay with the.
Yes. Good, Jay. Dagger. I see that now. Thank you for that.
No
Interesting.
problem.
And the U2 Dragon Lady. That's the nickname for the U2 that CIA gave her, the Dragon Lady.
In relation to possible reptilian ET presence on Earth. Now, obviously, I understand that this is part of your speculative, approach, and no one can fully verify any of this. But are the reptilian-style intelligence patches the primary data point that gives you reason to postulate on a reptilian intelligence, or are there other things that you feel strengthen that argument?
There are other things I feel strengthen that argument, but I don't have permission from those people to talk about that. It's not exactly a download.
That's okay, but there are certainly other things that you feel have given you okay. You see, that is interesting. I mean, it's no secret that this is something that's discussed within the UFO community, and in all honesty, it's usually treated with a lot of controversy, and people don't want to really go there. But this subject is absurd anyway, and I think that there's always the possibility for this type of thing to exist within that space. And you've had people like Lou Elizondo recently hinting quite heavily that an important potential signature of extraterrestrial intelligence is human DNA. And as you were saying, why are we not like bonobos or chimps or chimpanzees, or we're
right.
We're an order of magnitude above anything else on this planet. How did that happen?
Yeah, that's in my letter to CIA, where I just stated that I know this, and here's where I heard it, and here's the circumstances I heard it, and I didn't put it in there. I made it speculative because I wanted the entire presentation to go through. Next time around, I can quote chapter and verse of why that might be true.
Yeah, well,
and unclassified. That, by the way, unclassified.
Right. Well, speaking of chapter and verse, I mean, you look back on things like the Bible, and obviously the Garden of Eden, the reptilian, the fruit from the tree of knowledge, and I think in the original, it's Yahweh walking through the garden saying if they eat of this fruit, they will become like we are, which is an interesting statement to make. Right. They will become like we are. And the reptilian symbology is just echoed through history. So that's certainly an interesting thing. John, this has been absolutely brilliant. I think people are going to really find a lot of benefit from this presentation. I'm sure it's going to spark some curiosity for the people that love technical information as well. There's plenty of good technical tidbits alongside some interesting, albeit a little disturbing, speculations of the overarching issues of the phenomenon. Really looking forward to whatever your next presentation is going to be. And maybe you will succeed in your mission of eventually getting something redacted.
I would think that the last topic we just talked about of reptilian seems to have a bad connotation here. People are afraid of reptiles. Let's just call them saurians. Let's just call them like dinosaurs from an Earth that did not get clobbered by an asteroid, and they were able to evolve and found a means of coming here from that other Earth. Let's just put it at that, and that they were the ones that, saying, hey, look at these primates. We don't have primates in our place. They never evolved. That goes down a wormhole, a rabbit hole that actually, let's see if I get that redacted.
Watch more podcast clips now on our YouTube channel. Go to Livewire Podcast Clips and watch more great podcast videos just like this one.